Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Future Branches webinar sponsored by Coconut Software, Embracing a Customer-First Mindset, Eliminating Friction Points in Your Customer Multi-Channel Journey. I'm so happy that everyone could join us today. Now, before we begin, I'd like to bring everyone's attention to the console in front of you. Whether you're new to On24 or whether you're a seasoned veteran, I'm just going to give you a quick breakdown of what you're going to see in front of you. Now, throughout this webinar, you'll see that there's some windows or widgets that are up on your screen, and they can be repositioned. Feel free to maximize them, minimize them, reposition them to fit the device that you're using to connect with us today. Now, if you accidentally minimize a window, don't worry, it happens to the best of us. Simply click into the menu dock. It should be right there in the center bottom portion of your screen, and you can bring that window right back up. On that same menu dock, you'll find the Resource Center. So there you can access documents related to this webinar content, as well as important information about the upcoming Future Branches events that's taking place in Austin, Texas this November. We've got a discount actually ending on August 31st, so please message us at webinar@wbresearch.com to get yourself signed up. We're also going to try to save some time at the end of today's discussion for a quick Q&A session. So please feel free to submit any questions, whether it's to the WBR Insights team, Future Branches team, Coconut Software team, or to any of our panelists on today's webinar. If you have any questions to send to us, you can use that Q&A portal that's on your screen, or if not, it's in your menu dock. And don't be shy. So now, without further ado, I'm going to hand the mic over to Nathan, the Senior Director of Product at Coconut Software, who will introduce our executive panelists and kick things off. Take it away, Nathan.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone. Today, as Elise mentioned, my name is Nathan Poellet, and I'm the Senior Director of Product, and I'm going to be moderating this panel today. I'm really excited about the panelists that we've got here, so let's kind of dive into the agenda, and then I'm going to introduce you to all of them. So I think we've got a pretty straightforward agenda today here. This is the introduction right now. I'm going to introduce our panelists right away here. We're going to do a little bit of level setting of the state we find ourselves in this industry right now, and then dig into our panel discussion, which is really going to be the bulk of the next hour. And then finally, as Elise mentioned earlier, we are going to set aside a little bit of time at the end for some questions. So, please feel free to submit your questions now, and we're going to try to get to them at the end of this hour. On that note, let's get to our panelists. So first up on our panel, we have Erin from United Federal Credit Union. And Erin, can you introduce yourselves to all of our attendees?
Absolutely. Thank you, Nathan. My name is Erin Hennessy. I have been leading banks and credit unions up to $8 billion in assets to transform their business for over about 15 years. My approach is to, number one, challenge the status quo, never settle when it comes to alignment of business strategy and customer experience. And I accomplish this with my oversight in the areas of corporate strategy, digital technology and delivery, data and analytics, marketing, brand, product, and innovation management. Today I work for United Federal Credit Union. It's an amazing organization, and we're around $3 billion in assets with over 35 locations, 6 states across the United States, members in all 50 states and internationally. We have put a focus and resources towards transforming the way we do business and delivering financial services to our members.
Fantastic. Thanks, Erin. Next up, we have Paula from ChannelNet.
Hi, how are you, Nathan? And thank you so much for inviting me to participate today. I founded ChannelNet in 1985, before there was an internet, and have ridden all the waves of technology. We were the original digital agency back in '85, and today we spend the bulk of our time working with banks and credit unions to drive improved customer experience through personalization technology. So I look forward to the panel discussion.
Thanks, Paula. And next up, we have Stephen from FinAI.
Hey, Nathan. Thanks very much for having me here today. Once again, my name is Stephen Menon. I'm the VP of Product at FinAI. Just a little bit more about myself. Prior to joining Fin, I spent nearly 13 years in the financial services consumer banking space, both in US and Canada. I started my career at MBA America, the largest distributed lender in the US, and helped scale the Canadian business. I oversaw marketing and product, but also during a period of time ran our customer service and call center operations. At FinAI, I have the pleasure of leading our product and conversational design teams. So I made the transition from banking to the startup world nearly 2 years ago, and it's been an awesome ride so far. FinAI is a conversational assistant SaaS product, previously known as chatbots. It's powered by natural language processing AI. We develop products solely for the banking vertical. The reason why the language of banking is very complex and needs a specialist to be able to help banks within their AI transformation journeys. We have customers both in Canada and the US, as well as assistants deployed in production in Germany, Central America, and South Africa. Our assistant can speak English, French, Spanish, and German. Really looking forward to participating in the panel today and talking about digital transformations that are happening in banking.
Fantastic. Thanks, Stephen. Next up, we have Nicole from Mainstreet Credit Union.
Thanks so much, Nathan. So I'm Nicole Laven. I'm the SVP of Marketing and Communications at Mainstreet Credit Union. We have 12 locations across southwestern Ontario in Canada. There I lead the external engagement function for Mainstreet, which includes advertising, branding, community outreach, digital marketing and social media, our website, SEO and SEM, data analytics, and all of our internal and external communications and product-related items. So it's a large portfolio, and I'm very excited today to have the opportunity to discuss the innovation in banking topic, as well as our recent integration of the Coconut booking system within our website as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Nicole. Finally, myself, I'm Nathan Poellet. I'm the Senior Director of Product at Coconut Software. I've been in the SaaS game for better part of 15 years now, and I've been with Coconut since the beginning of 2019. And Coconut provides a appointment scheduling platform that services primarily banks and credit unions, and we do that through all sorts of different ways that you might book an appointment, be that through a website or social channels or through a call center or walking into a branch through our lobby management solution. So we sort of do all facets of scheduling appointments with your customers or members. On that note, let's dive into the topics that we're going to be sort of looking at today. So first off, we've got a poll here where we're looking at what the top priorities are for the attendees here for 2020. So our hope here is to sort of gather some opinions right now. Please enter in as many of these things as you know are sort of on your mind right now, and we're going to hop into the poll results in about another 20 seconds or so. And our hope here is that we can use some of these results to help steer our panelists so that we're touching on the topics that are actually most relevant to our attendees here today. So I'm just going to wait another couple of seconds here. Get your last minute answers in. All right, can we hop over to the results here? Okay, interesting. So as we look through these, a lot of things that are kind of sitting around the 50-60%. Looks like the most interesting topics to our attendees here are data collection and analysis and how we differentiate ourselves from our competitors. So hopefully our panelists can kind of hone in on those two topics as we get to those sections of our talk. Okay, moving on. Current market realities. I think we're feeling this in banking and credit union space quite heavily, but I think this is true across all sorts of different markets. But this one here says, evolving consumer expectations and technology trends are impacting the banking industry more than ever. I think this is a sentiment that is felt by anyone who works in this space. Let's back this up with some more detail, though. There we go. So I think these are the present market realities. We've got constant pressure to deliver growth for our shareholders, be that the members of our credit union or our public shareholders of our bank. We are constantly fighting against what the ever-changing regulations want. Our members are increasingly demanding of digital experiences, and digital overall is a total game changer. It changes how we work. It changes how we interact with each other inside of our organizations and with our members and customers outside of it. So on that note, we can either just carry on with business as usual, which I think we all know is going to be painful, or we can embrace change as it happens. Our hope here is that we can actually make that less painful and actually exciting. I know I'm excited about what the future of banking can really look like. So on that note, let's get into our first question on the panel here. So I'm going to direct this first question to Stephen, and to you, Stephen. What do you consider to be some of the main friction points impacting the customer experience today?
Yeah, I think there's a few things that come to mind. I think one that we're all experiencing is the bar of personalization, particularly for digital channel experience, has been dramatically raised by some of the large incumbents like Amazon or Netflix that are really using data to create experiences that are more personalized than we've ever seen before across any industry. And that expectation is now moving across all digital experiences and into banking. I think a second key trend that's causing some friction is the real shift from phone talking to phone messaging. So even if you look at your own phone from yesterday, I'm guessing most people's phones will have a lot more text messages than phone calls. Yet banks, particularly from servicing, have relied on the call center channel for many years. And there's a lot of an appetite for having to wait on hold and to follow some of the legacy processes that exist. According to Facebook, over 80% of adults and 90% of teens prefer messaging or message every day. And 70% of millennials try to actually digitally self-service before calling their banks. This is from a Bain U.S. banking study from last year. I think the other part that we see is just because of the high turnover and long training cycles required for frontline staff, the customer experience and the risk of non-compliance is ever higher. And customers are expecting a 24/7 experience in their channel of choice and designed for them.
Thanks. I'm going to direct the same question to Erin. So Erin, what are you seeing as some of the main friction points impacting the customer experience at United Federal?
Sure. Thank you, Nathan. As bankers, as credit union folks, we are notorious actually for making things a little bit more complex than they need to be. And so in essence, the main friction points from my point of view take place due to the complexity that we create as bankers. And I loop those into kind of three categories. We create friction around our products and services, around our customer interactions or our member interactions, and then our organizational alignment. So let me dive into organizational alignment and what I kind of mean there. So the folks that are on the line, answer this in your head or out loud in your office, but when you design a new customer experience or member experience, How do you go about that design? What is your organization's philosophy? What's your principle? Is that stated anywhere? Is it printed, maybe posted up on a wall or saved on the desktop of your programmers or organization-wide? Because some of us engage in shiny object design, and that's what happens when a vendor demos a new technology and we ooh and ah and we have to have it. Some of us say, oh, we are cutting edge. We are at the forefront of technology through our innovation. Some of us engage in customer-centric design. That's great because, hey, the customer's at the center. But what happens, and sometimes what's missing when we either don't clearly state how we design, is that we build technology and we build experiences that create friction because we haven't looked at the whole picture. And so, for instance, when we use the word digital transformation, it's a great buzzword. We love using that. Financial industry media, they use that word to get us to read their articles. But basically, it silos the ownership of the member or customer experience into one or two groups because we have the word digital in front of it. When what we really need is ownership from all areas of the business to truly transform that customer experience. And so here's an example of what we've discovered because we clearly stated our design principle and then we followed through. So our online deposit account opening was well below industry average. So we started and we did what any good financial institution would do. We called in our current vendor and we shook our fists at them and we looked for a new vendor. I'm only semi-joking there. The process we took was actually focused on United Federal Credit Union's philosophy of designing for the customer experience through innovation and continuous improvement. So what we did is we asked the project team to document current state and understand each step in that member experience and understand each example of friction. And I'm sure it's no surprise to anyone on the line, there were lots of examples of friction. But what was most surprising to us was that we uncovered decisions that we had made ourselves about our process, like our risk settings and our identity verification process were outdated. Once we understood this, we were able to dive in and redesign that to fit our business needs, to improve the customer experience by eliminating steps, eliminating human-required processes, auto-improving, auto-declining, et cetera. And those changes alone have made the largest impact actually on our customer experience. In the first 30 days, we opened a record high number of deposit products online. And if we had first gone with Bang Technology and Solutions, I think we would have still been climbing uphill. So I think what's important is clearly state what your design philosophy is, make sure you're all aligned around that, and look at all sides of the business. Look at the member experience and look at how you're delivering member experience in the back office, and then find those fun new technology and solutions.
I love that answer, Erin. I'm really curious about your design philosophy and how you've instilled that in your culture outside of, say, a couple of digital experience teams. Can you dive in a little bit deeper into sort of what you've done at United Federal to really get everyone to kind of embrace that design philosophy?
Sure, and I think part of it is change management and its communication. So from a change management and internal communication standpoint, we know all the channels with which we communicate to our, we call them Team United, to our employees. And then we also open up channels for them to communicate back to us, because for it to be a conversation and for us to make sure that we're truly moving in the same direction, it needs to go both ways. So first, we take advantage of being very clear and articulating where we need to go and why we're going there. And then we create and actually engage in channels of communication back with our team. So our CEO, Terry O'Rourke, commits time to visit every single branch, every single department. He did it last year. He did it again this year. And we take notes, and he conducts kind of a town hall. He gets feedback. He shares personally with the folks there on where we're going and why and what his philosophy is. what the senior leadership team's philosophy is. And people can ask questions. And when you can ask questions directly with the CEO, you understand the why. And once you understand the why, you can have passion around it and you can have engagement around it. We also have several other channels, only one I'll kind of touch on. But one channel is we do have an anonymous portal where you can reach out to our CEO and the senior leadership team and kind of ask any question you want to, give feedback on anything you want to. And so these are great ways that we can kind of understand the pulse of the organization, understand where they are on the number one awareness curve, the understanding curve, and then the adoption of where we're headed as an organization. And so that's kind of the communication piece. Then from the, hey, are we actually adopting it? Do we know that we're making a difference? We have launched a project management office. And so we are getting our arms around making sure that when we design things, when we move forward with a project, when we prioritize, we are doing so with the same priorities and with the same philosophy. And so that mechanism in place allows us to make sure that, yep, we've got people on board, they understand, they're passionate about it, but then also in the implementation, which is kind of the important part, we are actually following it. And then the final piece is okay, so then what do our members think about it? And I think it's important that financial institutions really have a conversation with their members and with their customers. So we have several mechanisms for that to take place, some formal and informal. But we regularly reach out to our members to understand their experience, at the branch, at the teller line, at the ATM, on our website, when they, created an external transfer, et cetera. And so from that feedback, we can understand if we are making the right changes. They are member-centric, and we can continue to iterate and improve going forward.
That's great. I want to move on to the next question here. I'm going to direct this one to Paula first. So Paula, how can financial organizations set themselves apart to deliver exceptional service and meet the evolving needs of today's customers?
Well, I think my rule for this has always been make it easy and more frictionless for customers and members to do business with your financial institution. And I guess the question is, how do you do that? And I've got 3 ways that I would recommend. One is to serve up curated content from existing sources, both online and paper-based. Serve it up in bite-sized pieces that are very easy for a customer or member to digest. And it's interesting because what we've done is we have social channels, we have blogs, we have educational content, community events, products and services, LinkedIn profiles. I mean, we're all over the place, YouTube videos, and we really expect our customers to jump around with us. So what we believe that the best way to go is to ensure that you look across all these disparate digital and other channels, and you bring those together in a bite-sized piece that is relevant to an individual customer or member. And let me give you a use case. Let's say a customer adopts a new product. The first thing we ought to do is thank that customer for adopting that new product. If we have a YouTube video, we should combine that with the thank you about that product, how it's used, what its features and advantages. And it doesn't have to be a sexy video. It can be a product manager speaking about it. You want to include social reviews about that product that have been delivered by your various constituents and audiences, and to reinforce that purchase decision. You want to bring in specific local community events and educational activities that are related to where that customer is, literally what city, what state, what zip code. I like, and I thought Erin's comment about constantly questioning members and customers about their experiences across the board. And we like to use a net promoter score kind of arrangement where it's a one question. You don't need long, drawn-out surveys. People are turned off by those. Just give them, you know, a rating scale. Let them rate how you performed, and then give them a box that they can complain if that's what they want to do, and then turn around and that information should instantly go to a designate, and that designate that should then pick up the phone and thank that customer for the good feedback and ask how they can help to correct the bad feedback. And last but not least, let's always make sure that the closest branch and the people associated with that branch are always front and center for that individual customer or member. The second thing I would say is you need to make it easier to schedule a meeting in branch with a specialist to help with expert advice when it's needed. And I think both of the credit unions on the phone, Nicole and Erin, have adopted the Coconut software scheduling capability, and we need to be more respectful of a customer's time. They're busy, they don't want to wait around, they don't want to just stop by and hope that the person that they need to meet with isn't at lunch or in another meeting or something like that. I have a little true story I'd like to pass on. A CEO of a very successful Midwest investment company was required to go to the branch with his daughter to sign her up, and the daughter is college age, to sign her up for a checking account. And after a long, detailed pitch on all the products and services of the bank, they walked out with a 3-ring binder of information. And not only is this wasteful, printing all this darn paper and handing it to somebody in the hopes that they're going to sit at home or put it on their bookshelf, they're going to throw it away, and it's just a waste of money and time. So and further, it wasn't a good use of the executive and his daughter's time. So I think understanding and how processes need to change and be redesigned, and also how to be very crisp and tightly integrated between the digital channel and the brick and mortar personnel is very, very important. So being able to make sure that when that customer comes in for that appointment, we are ready, we're not going to waste their time, and we're not going to hand them a thick 3-ring binder. And then my very last comment, and one that I feel very strongly about, if a customer member can't come to the branch for whatever reason, or meet with the specialist in their office, you should think about using two-way video conferencing with secure digital signature capability, so the customer member can have the meeting in their office if they're out of town, or on the comfort of their own couch. So I think these are some technologies and capabilities. All of these are very, very important in driving you way beyond and above what's happening out there with the bulk of banks and credit unions.
Great answer, Paula. I want to direct the same question to Stephen now. So, Stephen, for FinAI, how do you guys see this situation right now? How can financial organizations actually set themselves apart from their competitors and deliver exceptional service while also sort of keeping up with the ever-evolving needs of our customer bases?
Yeah, I think there's a few things that come to mind. I think kind of echoing Paula's last comment, customers want to meet the bank in their channel of choice in their own where they are every day, where they're living, and in comfort, whether it's the office or at home. So enabling customers to meet you as a financial institution in their channel of their choice and in the means that are most convenient to them, that they're using through their other major ways of communicating, is just the reality of where communication is going. And we see that quite often through messaging. People want to either message, they want to Zoom video when they're communicating with people. And it goes down to the fundamental value that a bank can provide of helping make people's lives more efficient, helping them save more time to do things that they care about versus having to wait on hold or not have an efficient way to meet with the organization. One of the interesting stats that came out of a recent Gartner survey and just around how customer service is evolving within the financial services space is that Gartner estimates by the end of 2020 that 85% of customer service interactions will begin with a chatbot. So I think one of the ways that banks can begin differentiating, and we're seeing this amongst some of the larger banks in the U.S. that are already getting a head start, like Bank of America and their Erica product, is conversational assistants are part of the future of the customer experience. And they can provide a lot of value by being available 24/7, by enabling digital and personalized experiences, and to kind of echo something that Paula mentioned earlier, be able to provide pieces of content that already exist within the bank's memory or knowledge system in very manageable chunks, whether that be through a video or a message, or in the future, even through a conversation. I think the other part that's really important for banks to focus on is not letting their silos, and this kind of goes along to an earlier comment, their silos by product or their silos of data, not allow them to have a unified customer experience. And what I mean by that is that, very often with large banks, you have to call into the credit card group and then call into a separate area for the mortgage group and call into a separate area for this group. And also you can't actually see your full data. So banks that are partnering with data aggregators like MX, who's a partner of FinAI's, or Yole or some of the other large companies, to be able to provide customers with their full financial view. Out of Europe with GDPR, the regulations forcing customers to be able to have access to their data and own their data. I think that's only going to be a reality for North American banks. So those banks that actually give their customers their data back first and actually provide value for the data that they capture to create a unique and personalized customer experience is a great way for banks to stay ahead and differentiate.
You said a couple of really interesting things in there, Stephen. The one that I would love to dig into a little bit deeper is, I believe you said something along the lines of it should be financial institutions' goal to actually make their customers and members' lives more efficient. I think that's an interesting angle on financial institutions that I don't know if it is a common reality today. I don't know if any of our other panelists sort of have any follow-up thoughts on that notion.
Well, people have been time-starved for years. And everybody's got, working wives or working husbands and, their kids and play dates and PTA meetings and soccer teams, and it's nobody has time anymore. And so we as marketers, have had to adapt to that for the last 20 or so years. And it's hard because, they are not going to let you in. The customer, the member is not going to let your message in unless they think it's, valuable to them and useful to them and relevant to them. So many a study have talked about this, and yet we still force them to come into a branch to open a checking account. or we want them to answer a 45-question survey. And it's just not reality in today's world.
All right, let's move on to the next question. I'm going to direct this one to Nicole. So, Nicole, what are some of the most innovative initiatives that you've seen recently that have really helped to set banks and credit unions apart from their competitors?
Yeah, so with this question, I thought it would be an amazing opportunity to kind of dive into three financial institutions that I think have done an exceptional job being innovative. The first one being Umpqua Bank. Their culture is very customer-driven, and they first reinvented themselves about 10 years ago by making their branches more community-centric. In an article, they described this as similar to cafes and other gathering places. And they called it their neighborhood store, where they actually had engaging spaces to browse local merchandise, shop online, and enjoy a cup of coffee while learning about community events and resources. All their stores were fully equipped as well to offer a full suite of banking services from personal to business services. So when people visiting their physical spaces dropped, they introduced an advisor in your pocket with their mobile app. So their community neighborhood stores was really in and around that about 10 years ago and around 2010. And now, even though it was a very engaging space, clearly we've all been talking about it today, less and less people are walking into our branch locations. So using that information, they've said, how do we continue to have that personalized one-on-one connection with our members, and knowing that we spend how many hours a day on our mobile devices and engaging with apps and our email and other chat functions, they married that desire of individuals to connect on their mobile device with a human person. So looking at the bios of the advisors, you're able to say, maybe I want to be serviced through the app by Sarah because she's in a similar age demographic to me. She also has kids and she also likes playing tennis. So there can be a little bit of that relationship building through the app. And if Sarah's not available, there's certainly other people available to assist in other hours. So they've definitely taken that personalized approach and married it with the mobile piece. You can chat and text through the app directly with that person. Another one that stands out to me is Simple Bank in the States again, but they have made a personal financial analysis and information at the core of their product. And their accounts are structured around goal development by the customer and coaching them to achieve that through the online tools. The brand video I saw a few years back at a conference actually showed a marriage proposal in reverse. So from when he knew she was the one for him, he used his simple account called Ring, that he called it, to save for his goal so he could be there proposing. And it was very inspiring, and as you can imagine, a tearjerker type of video and story. So really making it very personalized and very engaging, even though it is an online-based financial institution. The last one is a Canadian example, Blue Shore Financial in Vancouver area in the west coast of Canada. They rebranded many years back, and they targeted the affluent west coast active outdoorsy working professional. The brand concept focused on honoring the landscape of the communities that they're in, so there might be a rock climbing display on the branch wall or local artwork. There's beverage centers, free Wi-Fi, lounge areas, and more. And it's all about a financial spa, financial wellness, and wealth services is at the core focus of their business. Their brand, when introduced, and continues to be a very unique one in the financial space. And their engagement events include things like jazz and seafood in the park, run events, and other pursuits directly targeted to their key wealthy, active professional demographic. Their branches are beautiful spaces and reflect the natural landscape with wood, stone, waterfalls, and focus on relaxation and being financially fit. I think in today's day and age, to wrap this piece up, is I would say you have to be innovative to get people to visit your physical space. And if you're going to have them visit your physical space, as we talked about, convenience must be king in people's busy lifestyles. So our credit union, Mainstreet, recently launched a new website, and shortly after we introduced Coconut Calendar booking as an option online. So right from the top of the homepage, you'll see, if you go to mainstreetcu.ca, You'll see our banner ad at the top and then our footers on all of our individual pages. We've made sure that we have a call to action button, whether it's driving them to book an appointment online, call a branch, or connect with our Contact Us page, which has inquiry forms. We're working to make more of our products and onboarding 100% online. However, we're just not there yet, being the size that we are and some of the availability of full digital services in Canada. So at the moment, what we're looking to do is just drive that call to action in terms of booking and having as much as we can for convenience in terms of people coming in. We also have wealth and ag and other specialized services that travel to some of our smaller and more rural locations. And with digital signatures and video meetings and other things occurring, when we have that in place, we feel like there can be more digital meetings occurring, and the focus on having everything having to be done in the branch will greatly lessen, similar to what Paula was mentioning in the previous question.
Fantastic. I'm going to move along to the next question here. I'm going to direct this one to Erin. So, Erin, what do you feel is the biggest challenge holding organizations back from delivering the sort of excellent omni-channel experiences we've talked a lot about throughout this entire panel discussion so far?
So I love this question because I firmly believe that one of the biggest challenges holding us back is that we actually call out the word omni-channel. I'm not a big fan of that word. In the same way, I don't like digital transformation because it instantly creates a silo. Well, there has to be a digital department, or maybe that's in technology, or maybe that's member experience, or maybe that's marketing. The word omni-channel reinforces the continued need for channels, which is a nice way of saying silo. And frankly, let's think about it. Our consumers don't bank that way. They don't perceive it that way. No one leaves the house and says, hey, honey, I'm going to transact via the branch channel today, be home around noon. So if we don't stop perceiving the customer experience by channel, we'll never really meet our customers where they are. And so why is this important, and why do I state all of that? Because in financial institutions normally, channel dictates structure, which dictates ownership, and then that impacts your customer's experience. So my recommendation is take a good long look at how your organization is structured. And if you have the same kind of basic departments and ownerships that you did 10 years ago, you're probably missing the boat. And I encourage you to rethink about that and focus on the member and the customer first. What are they trying to do? What are they trying to accomplish? Because I'm going to tell you they want to buy a car, not apply for, be underwritten, approved, closed, and funded for an auto loan. And yet all of those words are probably departments within your organization. My recommendation, and I think the biggest challenge that holds us back, is lack of ownership across the entire organization of that customer experience. Focus, align resources, and facilitate everyone around what our consumers are actually trying to do. So I think it starts with, to get beyond this challenge, if we're structured in silos and we think digital transformation has to be owned by technology, or we think omni-channel, boy, there's a lot of channels, who owns this channel and that channel, I think that you start with the reinforcement within your organization of a unified ownership of that customer experience. Whether you're in underwriting, whether you're in operations, whether you're in accounting, facilities, you have ownership of an aspect of that customer experience, and that's important because our consumers, they're just living their lives, and part of that is moving money or taking on debt with us to do so. And so if we kind of remove these silos and we think about it really, truly customer first, then we can build our departments and our channels and our activities and structure ourselves around the experience we're trying to build and how we all have an impact in that. And I think if you can successfully do that, you're really on the right path.
Yeah, that's great. I want to direct the same question to Nicole. Would you echo Erin's sentiments here? Do you see the the challenges facing you at Mainstreet a little differently?
No, I definitely echo what Erin mentioned. One piece I had noted on this question was just, I would say one of the biggest challenges, at least for us and what I hear from other peers of other credit unions, is the integration of all of our systems into one. So a lot of us mentioned that our branch, telephone, online, website, and other platforms are really sitting separate from one another, and the desire for us to be able to have these items meld together and be able to enact marketing automation and utilize our data analytics to its fullest capabilities would certainly open up a lot of doors and make the OmniChannel experience, better for our members, certainly. And I think it's so important to know our members. For knowing our members in the future, with them not coming into the branches frequently, we'll need to be able to do this through our data and less through our face-to-face interactions. So being able to harness the information and inform immediate outreach and sales opportunities to the members in real time, when and how they need it and want that information or product, and that the customer feels like it's a match to their unique needs and that we somehow know and understand them through the online environment, I think is going to be very, very important. That aspect of personalization, I think, is huge.
Great answer, and I think that's actually a perfect segue into my next question here, which I'm going to direct to Stephen. Stephen, how can banks and credit unions really actually create these personalized relationships that we're talking about here? And how can they use technology to build and nurture those relationships?
Yeah, and I think I'll follow on with some of the comments from the last question that really resonated with me around the way that banks speak about banking and channels and products and how people actually speak about banking. And that's one of the things that we've learned the most of at FinAI is actually getting insights to how people are asking questions about banking, what questions they have for their bank, what words they use to call their checking account, what are the names that they use to indicate what they're looking for, and helping banks connect their language to actually consumer language. And I think that's one of the really exciting things that, having more data through products like conversational assistants or virtual assistants, or even your normal call center chat agent platforms, to not just track what people are asking by, what a call center rep indicates in their post-call completion task, but based on data and unbiased data. I think that's a huge opportunity right now that banks have. And I think that another thing that comes to mind is where they can use technology to help break down those silos. And I think different data aggregators that can provide a unified view of a customer's financial situation is a great way to allow people to actually feel like it's not just about the products they have with their one bank, it's about their whole financial lives. And that's how people really manage their financial lives, not just amongst the one bank or amongst a series of banks. It's their whole financial picture the banks need to help them with. I think another thing that really jumps to mind when we're talking about how to enable personalization is the importance of to move to data-driven decision-making versus who has the loudest voice or who has the biggest title of decision-making. Actually making decisions based on what people are asking for, what people need, is really going to empower organizations to keep their customers.
Do you have any specific examples of the kind of language disconnect between consumers and financial institutions that you commonly run into, Stephen? I find that a really interesting topic.
Yeah, it's so just how that comes into at FinAI is that you will have. We understand that, how banking works by different product lines, and we'll map out that kind of organizational traditional structure. And then we'll create, a series of ways that people actually may ask for a payment product or a card product. But then, people have their own terminology, like they'll start saying my account or the green account, or maybe a legacy name, the product was named 20 years ago. All that internal language that people may use that's been pushed to customers, they may refer to it as. So again, it's a constant view of the data coming in, and then it's really mapping and leveraging the power of artificial intelligence and the power of technology to help predict and understand what people are looking to do.
I want to direct the same question to Nicole now. So Nicole, how can banks and credit unions create more personalized relationships, and how can they leverage technology to do so?
For this one, I would really say member segmentation is really important. So previously, you might have had 4 member segments, and it might have been very age-driven, whereas now you would have 20, maybe 30, maybe 40 segments that you're going to create, because they're going to be so specific in terms of the brand and tastes and preferences and channels and desires that each of those groups are going to have, and how do we ensure as a financial institution that we're servicing them. I think the segmentation really ties in with the need for personalization. So especially with the millennial generation, it's really about them wanting to feel like they're uniquely known and understood. So I think that's really important, and to target your voice, your products, your time of day delivery for your messages, et cetera, basically based upon each of those different segments. So really getting to know them and structuring your services to what you're going after, and trying not to obviously accommodate everyone with everything. So really knowing your services and your strengths and being able to tailor that to those segments. And I also think the UMQA example I mentioned earlier with the advisor in your pocket is a great way of showing how you can nurture relationships using technology and the shifting behaviors, especially for that younger demographic of wanting to text or wanting to use their phone over, calling or coming into the branch. I think we just need to continue to innovate and say, how do people want to engage with us, and how do we ensure that that we're in their space and doing that appropriately for the changing times.
Very interesting. Can you elaborate just a little bit deeper on what sort of factors you're looking at to create these segments? I'm detecting that it's a lot more than just demographic information, but it's actually based on past behaviors. Can you elaborate on that just a little bit?
Yeah, so we actually recently did a project with BDO, and we looked at different segments, and we've created multiple personas. So it's looking at what type of jobs or careers they might have. It would be looking at what would be their preferred brands, what would be their preferred channels, like use channels. It would be looking at financial behaviors, and it's using knowledge that you can glean from looking at whether it be social media data, whether it be segmentation or demographic information or local information that you're able to get from census or other areas of information. So it was quite an interesting dive, I would say. It brought about a lot more information than we were expecting. And now we're going through the more challenging work of saying, now that we know this information, how do we utilize it to our benefit, whether it be something like an email campaign, and deciding and being a little bit more targeted. I really truly say I feel like we're moving from what used to be a spray and pray approach in marketing, which was very much where we would get the same message out to all of our members and hope that it would stick where it needed to now using data analytics and using this member segmentation approach to just be very, very specific and very drilled down in our messaging, and being more targeted and strategic in terms of who we're sending it to and what we're sending and how it's being sent, and really thinking through all of the different areas of detail.
Fascinating. Moving on to the next question, I'm just going to kind of direct this one towards the entire panel, and please feel free to hop in here if you've got any thoughts. But what do you see as the sort of top factors that banks and credit unions should keep in mind when sort of implementing the types of innovations that we were talking about today, and to try and bridge the digital and physical sort of interactions with your customers and members?
So Nathan, this is Erin. I can jump in and let others chime in as well. So from my perspective, there really are kind of top things that folks should focus on, and I think it echoes something I said earlier, but we do all own that customer experience. And so when we're implementing this bridge, it's not digital versus branch. It's not call versus text. It's not social media versus anything. Member experiences need to be true to the brand, no matter where our members are interacting with us. The level of service, the level of values, nothing changes because a member decides to apply for a loan online or open a checking account in person. And so allowing everyone to own a piece of that customer experience, reinforcing the fact that we all own it, setting really clear experience standards prior to implementing is really, really key. And secondly, I would say a focus towards simplicity. It's easy when we implement new things, when we try to be innovative, when we make this bridge, that we bring along with us legacy processes or legacy ways of thinking. And the more complicated an innovation becomes, the less likely people will be to adopt it, both internally and externally. So again, be firm with your design philosophy. Use innovation and continuous improvement to the customer benefit, and make sure that the technology and the systems you use are intuitive, reliable, and that you also take a look at your processes so you don't actually bring along on the bus to the future outdated ways of doing things. And the final piece that you really need to keep in mind is communication, communication, communication. And that applies internally and externally. Employees need to know why a particular innovation is being implemented, how it impacts their job, and the member experience. And members, frankly, they need to understand the benefits of the innovation, how to use it, why we launch it, what's the benefit if they adopt it, what pain point are we solving. And so if there's full ownership of that experience throughout your organization, you focus on simplicity and you communicate, I think you'll have some pretty good luck bridging that digital to physical.
That's fantastic. I want to add my thoughts on top of that there. You know, one of the themes that I've heard throughout a number of the panelists' responses today is making sure that you've got tight feedback loops on any of the sort of innovative new initiatives you implement, and making sure that you're actually really listening to your members and your customers about what is working and what isn't, and making sure that you actually kind of meet them where they're at. Does anyone have any additional thoughts on that particular topic?
I think that's essential, Nathan. I think you touched on a very good point. Communication is two ways. And if we're just sending messages and we don't understand how they were received, we don't understand if future behavior has changed or been impacted, then we don't know if we've made the right choice or not. And so I think engaging in those active discussions is very important. Of the banks and credit unions on the line, do you have member or customer focus groups or boards or experience teams? And how often do you reach out to them? And even your employees, your call center, your branches, your chat data, that is a phenomenal resource to understand if you're having the intended impact. Phenomenal comment.
Nathan,
thank you very much for that answer, and actually all the answers. I think we are basically out of time here. Thank you to all of our panelists today for participating. I think we've got some very insightful answers and a lot of interesting food for thought there. At this moment, though, I'm going to pass it back to Elise to kind of wrap up with the final logistics, and thank you once again to all of our panelists.
Fantastic. Yes, a round of applause, and thank you so much not only to our amazing audience for joining us today, but also to our wonderful panelists, our awesome speakers. Thank you so much. So just to give a couple of kind of just follow-ups, from what can happen here on out once the webinar closes. You, our audience, will be receiving an email from On24 in about, I believe, 24 hours from now that gives direction to how you can view the on-demand recording once we have the archive session set up within the platform. So you're automatically set to receive that, again, about 24 hours from now if you want to play the on-demand recording. As for the closing out after today's session, once we click, ending this live session, you'll see a small survey appear on your screen. It's about 3 questions, and we really like to use this to help influence what we want to do for future webinars, any topics that you all are very interested to listen to, and also, of course, to give us any feedback from what you thought of today's session. We'd love to hear from you. So from that, I will bring this program to its end. On behalf of Coconut Software, future branches, the WBR Insights team here at Worldwide Business Research, and of course our amazing panel of speakers from today's session, thank you all so much, and until next time, everyone, so take care.
Thank you.